It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnet Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
The next coming, the next Messiah, is here in the sense that it's unfolding in each of us, that we each are having experience with the part of us that's capable of, I don't know, walking on water. I'm open to that. I mean, whatever that is, whatever that translates into and means something to whoever, decided that was a good idea, then we want to create that in our own lives. Like, great, walk on water. This level of abundance where I can turn loaves and fishes and
just love more. I'll settle for I love more. I receive love more.
Well, that was a more profound message than creating loaves and fishes, but
But it really, that message was there, and I didn't. Day by day, I understand it a little more.
Personally.
A little more personally, and it has
it.
a little more dimension, a little more color to it, a little more possibility to it. So this, what if I hear you're saying, it sounds like a book title for some sort of platform speaker that says, be your own Messiah, be your own inner Messiah. But I think that's on target. I think that's what it's all about. We wake up one day to the awareness that we are our own saviors, and that we have insights about ourselves that allow us to fire and function with some more efficiency, and allow us to be more open to grace, to the grace of God.
And the Messiah comes in many forms. I mean, of course, you're making a beautiful movie soon called Illusions, about the reluctant Messiah, which dates back to the early 70s. It was a pretty huge book at its time.
Pretty big book.
And still remains a profound message, but that we find these...
Still sells several 100,000 copies a year.
Wow. But that we find the ahas come in myriad ways, and that our teacher, one of my favorite shows is you talking about Wyatt Webb, the horse whisperer, who demonstrated in the most simplistic, applicable way one of the deep and profound truths of your life, one of these great realizations, like, oh my gosh. And it can happen in the most expected ways, under the craziest of circumstances. I mean, that was more of a situation where you might expect to have an aha, but there's plenty of ways where I've learned something.
I am now always expecting to have an aha.
Beautiful.
I am cultivating a relationship with expectation. And so I, more and more, am becoming an adept, a skilled dancer at looking around with Superman X-ray vision, constantly probing and scanning with a sense of expectation for something wonderful. I find it with increasing regularity.
I wish we got into more of the conversation of capacity with Jeff, because that's really what we've been talking about a lot, is expanding these capacities where more is available, to really going to the edge of our comfort zone and peering out into the possibility and the unknown.
Pushing and seeing where the resistances come up from the structured imagination, and understanding what are the resistances, as quickly as possible, processing and understanding the resistances, including them, and loving beyond them.
And what Jeff said too, and I think this is true, though this is my language, isn't the way he said it, but that they can be inroads to a deeper, more profound sense of our own humanity and a larger sense of our purpose and meaning here. So his own experience with this deep sense of abandonment that arises in him, and he's so aware of it as almost a mechanism.
It's a trigger. It's a knee-jerk response.
That's right.
So conditioned and such a cycle of energy.
But how that can be a way of tapping into an experience, into a capacity in a more profound way, that it's a resource for feeling, for knowing what it feels like to be him. It's almost like a feedback system that at one point was the unconscious feedback system that he reacted to.
And now
is a conscious feedback system that allows him to go deeper and go, oh,
so
there I am.
In a very real way,
yeah,
we are now moving with consciousness through a world that is a mirror, is a stage upon which our subconscious and unconscious dances. And we're moving through these props and these scenery and these actions, and we are identifying and relating to and discharging the energy in all of these expressions of our subconscious and our unconscious, and we're integrating them, feeling them, loving them,
and then directing them. I mean,
and then directing
the idea of directing the energy as a conscious expression, whether it's a book, in this case, Jeff's beautiful book Soul Shaping, or a movie. Jeff's making one. You've made many, and will make many more. Whether it's a piece of poetry, I've written a bit of poetry, and it isn't something I can sit down and go, I'm going to write a great poem right now. It's one of those things I have to pick up a tablet at some
or
moment.
Equally creative, the manner in which I have an interaction with the checkout person at the grocery store.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for bringing it to that level.
No less a creative act.
Yes. No, thank you.
If with an intention I seek to make that a creative act, how can I make that a creative act?
Yeah.
Can I be compassionate? Can I be curious? Can I silently and quietly extend a wish? Is there a way that I can participate? Doesn't necessarily mean we have to do a jig together.
Well, and it's interesting when we are doing a jig together.
Not to say that we don't have to do a jig.
That's one of the great moments is when I'm finding myself reacting in the world, and we said this line before. That person's an idiot, and so am I.
Yes,
but I
and so am I.
remember the reflection part, that the judgment is a reflection. Oh, that's me. Oh, now how do I want to react? And that ability, we've talked about it in terms of tools. Now I'm relating to that part of my experience as reflected in the checkout person or whoever it is. Now that becomes a highly creative act. Whereas before, was just a jig we did because that's what we do. That's our patterned response, our patterned behavior, and adaptive personality.
Suddenly we're going way off trail here.
That's
we're making an entirely new map.
And it's highly creative.
It's highly creative. And it's so creative, it's so innovative, it's so new that we don't have, just in terms of our neurochemistry, we don't have a mind map. We don't have neuronal channels. We don't have. We are not wired and fired in a way that that is already expressed there. So when we do these things, we are actually wiring and firing brand new neuronal pathways.
It's called neuroplasticity, and it's really something that prior to maybe 20 or 30 years ago really wasn't understood in those terms. How malleable our brain functions are, that these dendrites and these axons and so forth, and the way that the neural nets are set up, and the way that that we have very much a program, much like a computer, that we operate on. And then when we start to make conscious choices, we blow out the program,
blow out the default program,
and we in essence create a new program. So we're gonna have some folks on here to talk about that. We were gonna get Mark Waldman. We'll
get him.
Yeah, he wrote How God Changes the Brain. Brilliant guy.
This is such great stuff because these are the modulating devices through which we perceive reality and conceive reality. This is how we bring it into the physical. And when we are wired to filter only Honda Odysseys,
right?
then that is what we filter. And when we wire and fire for bringing a sense of safety, for bringing a quality of how can I improve somebody else's day, just one person a day, when we bring a sense of increased expectation of something interesting and mysterious every day, when I wire and fire and I feed that attention, energy follows attention. When I feed that energy is wiring and firing new neuroplasticity, and we're developing a whole new capacity to have lenses for an entirely different experience of the world. And the flip side of it is, with disuse of some of the old myelinated neuronal channels, they atrophy and disappear.
Mm.
So suddenly, the less I focus on seeing Honda Odysseys or seeing paranoid expressions of how people have done me wrong, or seeing how my boss really does have it out for me. They always have it out for me.
Our scripts.
The more I can put a little compassion and love around that and shift it a little bit and feed more attention to something new, it begins to shift.
Yeah,
it begins to shift.
It does. And that's the whole idea of practices, that, from just simple behavior modification.
That is the idea of
model,
practices.
that you create practices that are actual conscious choices that create new neural pathways.
Neural pathways, so that we have different thinking, doing process, and then the next jump in the practices are to take those down into a somatic experience, into a body-related, so we can embody it. And then out into the world, we literally reimagine the world.
It's fantastic.